Hi everyone. My name is Eliana Palmer. This is my Literature 281 Identity and Difference podcast for my final project. So, as I said, my name is Eliana, and today I'm going to be talking about, right off the bat, just introduce our shows, which are my primary sources. So, Too Hot to Handle is known as a British reality TV dating game show produced by Fermanagh production companies and created by Laura Gibson and Charlie Bennett. And this show's eight-episode first season was released on Netflix on April 17th, 2020, hosted by a virtual assistant named Lana. And the show revolves around 10 plus adults. Their show progresses where there's like bombshells that come in throughout the show, but the whole idea of it is to form long-lasting relationships, and those who are placed in the relationships or form relationships go through workshops throughout, and they must not kiss or have any sexual contact, masturbation, or else the money prize gets reduced every time a rule is broken. And this obviously they choose the when they cast the when they do the casting process for this show specifically, they choose the most sexed up singles, and I quote, like, 'cause that's what a lot of people say, and that's what they say each other are called. And it becomes very controversial throughout the shows. They've been on for a lot of seasons, and I know this show specifically, even if it's a British one, it has a lot of Americans on it and a lot of people from like out of the country, but also they have made it in like Latvia and other countries as well as spin-offs. And my second primary source is Bachelor Nation, which is very well known. Specifically, The Bachelor is an American dating and relationship reality television series that debuted March 25th, 2002 on ABC, and it's been around for over 25 seasons now. We just had our recent season, I believe is season 28. Joey Granzadeh. It's probably my favorite all-time season, but I'm a bit impartial because he's my favorite on his Bachelorette season. Um, but this show has successfully resulted in several spin-offs. Like I said, The Bachelorette, Bachelor Pad, Bachelor in Paradise, After Paradise, Winter Games, and Listen to Your Heart, and as well as recently The Golden Bachelor and Golden Bachelorette. So specifically, I'm be talking a lot more about this recent season. I believe it was season 28, like I said, with Joey Granzadeh, because I do use a podcast with him as a secondary source. But yeah, it's a very interesting show, and the whole process is to get to an engagement at the end of the show. It's not like about money or anything, but it's about finding love. And it is very quick. And I feel like this show might be rooted in a bit more in love, but there are people that do come for the wrong reasons and the right reasons. So I'm going to get into that a little bit later. So, Love Island USA specifically, because this is actually a branch off of another show that's Love Island UK, which is the original one. And they started bringing in domestic contestants. So people for like that are British, people who are Australian, people all over just to probably make it more entertaining as well. And this series first came out August 8th, 2018 by CBS, and it premiered, so it was announced and commissioned on August 8th in 2018 by CBS, but it premiered July 9th, 2019 on CBS. And originally it was hosted by Ario Vandenberg, and then it was hosted by Sarah Hyland, and now it's hosted by Ariana Madix. And this season, season six, has to be probably one of the most controversial, drama-filled, and entertaining episodes in all of Love Island USA history, I'd say. As somebody who binges reality dating TV shows very often, I'd say even if I didn't even have like Peacock or whatever to watch it, I found a way to watch the episodes, and let me tell you, it did not disappoint. And different from the other shows, it's not like engagement at the end, and literally half the couples or the majority of the couples don't stay together after the fact. But there is like a prize at the end, I believe like it's like maybe 10,000, it might be less than $10,000, but there's a prize at the end, and they reveal who wins it out of the couple, like because they open an envelope, and a lot of the time they choose to split it. So I feel like this show is also a great addition to the podcast because we go from Too Hot to Handle with sexy singles, why they choose the horniest individuals, the concept of I can change them, drama for the views, temptation, there's a prize pot, and like how they progress throughout the season. And then we have the Bachelor, Bachelorette, Bachelor in Paradise, Bachelor Nation franchise, where you're when you have the Bachelor and Bachelorette, they're dating 30, like 25 to 30 plus men or women. And the process is to get deep really quickly. And there's dates, there's one-on-one dates that people fight for, they really want it. And then there's also group dates where they can get a rose at the end of the group date as well. And if they don't get a rose at the end of a one-on-one date, they get sent home. And also, like I said before, being there for the right reasons. A lot of people use these shows to get famous. I know in past seasons of The Bachelorette, a guy did do that and he got kicked off the show. But also, there are people there for the right reasons to fall in love, and people wonder, are these couples real? Like, do they even last? And for the majority of the time, from what we see, the percentage of couples that come out of Bachelor Nation, I feel is more successful than like Too Hot to Handle on Love Island. Some Love Island couples, like UK and some USA ones, have are still together, yes, but very short period of time so far. Because like with the one season I'm talking about for Love Island USA, which I'll get to, they only met last year or last summer, so it's like a very quick turnaround process from where we are now. But like shows like The Bachelor, we have Matt James season 20. No, not season 20. It was a different season. But Matt James in 2020, that's it. Um, he didn't propose to his final pick. They actually broke up after the final rose due to other circumstances, but they're still together to this day, years later, and they're not even engaged yet. So who knows? Anything can happen. And then obviously Joey and Kelsey, his final pick, are still together, and it's been over a year since they got engaged. Um, and the question is, like, do these relationships, as I said, actually last? And where are they now? Which is something we'll look into as well when looking at my secondary sources. And then we shift again to Love Island USA, which is a bit back into Too Hot to Handle, but they're not being like forced to not do anything sexual. Like it's their own choice to do that if they want to. And I know it becomes very controversial because of that. Like I'm binging Love Island Australia currently, and it's very controversial. And the moment something becomes like sexual or like there's temptation with it, there's so much drama. So with attractive singles coupling up, there's challenges, there's a lot of toxicity. A thing that people don't realize is there's a lot of friendships. Like people call these three girls from this past season of Love Island USA season 6 PPG, which is Powder Puff Girls, because that's how close they were. And they just became inseparable so quickly. And then obviously there's drama and falling in love. And something different from other shows is that they introduce, even though other shows introduce like bombshells, which this show is known for, they also have a thing called Casa Amor, which is where the guys and girls split up from their couples. They're still in their couples and they get tempted away by more girls, like new girls and new boys. And they can either like stick or switch or twist or they can recouple up with somebody from Casa Amor, or they can stick with their um partner that they were with before they were at Casa Amor. And sometimes this ends up being really cute, where they like you can see the loyalty with contestants, and some aren't, but some also go in single, so you never know what happens. Also, something different that other shows don't offer is the hideaway. So this is like where they can do a romantic night by themselves. Oh, there's still cameras, but so I wouldn't say it's not like fantasy suites on The Bachelor when it's only three girls left or whatever. It's you're in your couple and there's still cameras and they still like have sound and everything, but they try to be a bit more. I mean, they try to. I'd say it's less. They still have cameras, so it's not like it's nothing like fantasy suites for The Bachelor, which I feel is a bit. As much as you want to know what's going on, it's like a bit more. You need that private moment, and the show doesn't really do that, at least for Love Island Australia. I'm not sure about Love Island USA. I think there's still that the sound and the cameras from when I watched it, but it's you want to feel like you can do stuff with your partner that you're comfortable with without being seen on camera and judged, but you signed a contract, so really can't do anything about it. And then obviously there's the winner's prize, like I said before. So now I'm gonna talk about why I chose and these these shows specifically out of all the shows, like why I choose these. So first, I'd say I'm, as many people know, in my class, very into reality TV. I won't stop talking about it. I am obsessed with it. So I thought, what better way than do a whole like creative project on it? And I love podcasts. Like I listen to them all the time. But I've only ever done a podcast once, and it was with some friends for a class last semester. But as people saw through my little presentation in my class when we talked about our projects, I had a lot of pictures of people kissing, people like looking like they're in love with each other, people with engagement rings, people telling each other off, like drama, which all of these shows equally bring. I feel like reality TV is so played up that you really never know what's coming, and it really throws you off when you're thrown for a loop or something like that happens. Like for example, in season one of Too Hot to Handle, um, there's a couple named Francesca and Harry, and they click pretty instantly, but they become the problem couple out of everybody because they're the ones spending the most money they're breaking the most rules. They're like getting all sexy and all that. And this, since it was the first season, we see this as a reoccurring theme throughout the rest of the seasons that the show has, and they're deemed like the couple that needs the most work, and they're challenged to like even like have a night alone in like the hideaway per se or the Lana suite. And every single season, a lot of the time I think the majority of the time they end up fine after that, but it's like there's still temptation there, and it's like one, either the girl or the guy or whoever it is in the couple, one person stays true and like follows the plan, like that they're not going to do anything, and then the other one's tempting the other one to do something. So it's very confusing with the storyline and how that goes, but I found that really interesting. But overall, like especially with our class being related to race, beauty, and desire, all of these shows, if you've watched them, tie directly into those factors. I feel like, especially with desire and beauty, all of these shows, you're seeing that physical attraction right off the bat. Compared to a show like Love is Blind, where they fall in love apparently within 2 weeks of dating each other sight unseen, and then they have some time together and they get married or they don't, whatever happens. This show, you can see if there's chemistry right off the bat. And even if there is, they still lead with temptation to try to like steer them away from each other. At least this is for Love Island and Too Hot to Handle. The Bachelor or Bachelorette, they don't know, and Bachelor in Paradise even, they don't know who's like the lead per se. And in Bachelor in Paradise, there's no lead. Like you're everybody's on their own kind of. Whereas people from past seasons of The Bachelor or Bachelorette that didn't end up with that lead, they come down to the beach for a second chance at love. And if they find it, they find it. I think the pat not this past season of Bachelor in Paradise, but 2 seasons ago was probably the best season they've had in a while. And then they canceled this summer season because they knew it wouldn't be successful due to the fact they don't have a big cast to select from. So they decided to push it till next summer. But I still just find all of these topics quite interesting as you never know what's happening or like what's going to happen next. Specifically for Love Island, it's live. Like it's when they film, they might film it the day of, like that it's coming out, but a lot of that stuff is like they're currently in the villa living while you're at home watching them on TV. Compared to like other countries, at least I know Love Island Australia sometimes pre-records it, like they pre-record people winning or not. Like they're like little things that they post on Instagram just to like spoil it or like not spoil it at the end. For those that watch it, it's a lot different. So like you get to have more of a say in like the experience of these islanders. Like I know Australia sometimes has super fans that like they have like comment stuff or whatever, but we can actually like live. We used to be able to live vote for people for Love Island, and like I think they still do, where you can like vote for the best couple and they are saved from like elimination or like from leaving the villa. But like shows like The Bachelor. Bachelor in Paradise, those are filmed months in advance. Like they just probably finished up, or they currently finishing up Grant's season of The Bachelor, which will be airing in, I believe, January. So it's a quick turnaround because The Bachelorette didn't end too long ago. I mean, probably ended longer than I realized because they were pre-filming it. But they had after the final rose, which is like when they announced like if they're engaged or not. And this past season, obviously there was a big breakup between Jen and her ex Devin. But there's a whole lot of stuff that goes on behind the scenes that people don't really realize. And that's what I kind of wanted to touch on with my secondary sources, and specifically how much producers impact the industry of reality TV, especially in dating shows, which you see portrayed in the scripted show Unreal on Lifetime, which is now on Netflix. I found this show I'm like, this is giving a bit of The Bachelor, and I'm like, might as well watch it. And I was hooked immediately with what the show is because they're showing basically behind the scenes entirely of how the show progresses throughout. And I'm like, hmm. I mean, obviously, despite all like the sex scenes and all of that type of stuff, it pretty much, I would say, depicts what you would assume producers are like on a dating TV show that's for reality. Like, if there's no drama, they have to create something. I'm not sure how much our current reality TV shows or the shows I'm talking about for my primary sources are like this or not, but I feel like there's an impact, and we'll get into that also with another secondary source where my source about Gabby Windey talking about how the Bachelor producers need to work on casting because especially with this past season with Jen season, there was people that, I mean, obviously, you're not really supposed to know who the Bachelorette or Bachelor is before you go on to the show. You find out the night you step out. Sometimes they know, sometimes they don't. This past season, they announced the Bachelor pretty early while Jen season was finishing up because I think they didn't want what happened to Jen to happen to him. People were like very upset that he's the Bachelor or something, which I don't think will be the case. But there was people on Jen season, the contestants that thought that they would have Daisy or Maria from Joey's season be the Bachelorette, and that didn't happen. So it was very interesting to see that play out in the show Unreal, but also just how Gabby and the chicks in the office, people were talking about how the show is produced and maybe sometimes overproduced to play up characters for the lead or like make them look like a villain. And I feel like I feel like the producers on Love Island do that as well, but even Too Hot to Handle too. But what was interesting is that with The Bachelor, Joey Grande, as one of my secondary sources, I chose that the Chicks in the Office interview between the Chicks in the Office people and then Kelsey, Joey's final pick, which is now his fiance, and Joey himself, past Bachelor. And he reveals the moment he knew that Kelsey was the one. But yet, there's still a scene in the show where she writes him a letter. We don't know who the letter was. I completely thought it was somebody else who was threatening to leave or like saying that they wanted to leave the show. I was so thrown off when I saw it was Kelsey. But you could see in his face, and I think it was before that he really knew. But I feel like that like made it so clear to him that Kelsey was the one is that he said he would have, I'm pretty sure he would have gone home if she would have left. So that shows you how much of a connection they had, and it's clear as day. Probably after their first date, for me at least, I was rooting for them. I was rooting for the final two girls all along, like Daisy Kent and Kelsey Anderson. Like they were my favorite too, the whole season. And just to see their friendship blossom throughout, like they even went together in the limo to the engagement per se, and then obviously Daisy went out first and she walked away. She like they were like, if I can love, she said something that stuck with a lot of people, and I think it became like a big thing just for in general for women, is that if I can love the wrong person that much, I can love the right person that much more. Like something like that along those lines. And that really stuck out to me just as a woman. But then you see Kelsey and like the fact that like before, like this is after Daisy walked out and then she went back to the limo and had this really beautiful moment with Kelsey where she said, because she knew it wasn't her at that time, Daisy obviously, but she said, your mom will be so proud of you. She'll be so happy because her mom had passed away years before from cancer, Kelsey's mom. But the fact that like even throughout a show that is based on love and finding love and getting engaged, there still can be this like nice little aspect of, oh, I can have friends too. And even if we're going after the same man, we can still be friends. And then we have Love Island, Leah's Love Island tell-all with Call Her Daddy. And oh my gosh, this was filled with a lot of stuff. Leah was probably one of my favorite characters. Like people on Love Island USA season 6, because she just gave badass. Like the type of person she is, you could see it through and through. Is that I'd probably be intimidated of her to be honest. But she stuck to her gut and she knew if something was wrong or up and she tried to give people a chance and then they bullshitted her. And the fact that she stayed strong and she finished in what, second place on the show? She finished in the top three with her best friends. Like that's never happened ever. Like that just tells you something about her character and how she is. Like she doesn't want to play with her emotions. And now her and all the final three couples are still together, which is so beautiful to see. Um, but yeah, and to be honest, at first I wasn't even gonna write my podcast about this topic. I contemplating between a few different topics. But really, I found that the Love is Blind discussion really set my topic in stone about what I wanted to do because obviously, like I said, I'm really into reality dating TV shows. And I got really into the show Unreal. Um, but really, I arrived at this final project idea because of my love for reality TV. And this class just made that much more clear to me how much you can take out of shows like that. Like there's a lot more than you'd really assume there'd be, and it makes it a really cool thing to talk about. Like you wouldn't think that talking about a lead's emotions would be such a big topic, but it really should be because they don't really focus on how like a lead is doing or how characters throughout the show are doing. They only put the camera on them when they're crying or like they literally shove a camera in their face or like talk to us in the beach hut like for Love Island like if they're starting to cry or they're starting to have emotions about certain things and I'm like I feel like a lot of the power is abused in that sense but they know what they're getting themselves into at the beginning which really is sad because even if they want to find love if they don't they like are really genuine and they don't end up being the final pick or whatever and they get sad about it and then people are like bullying them on social media. I feel like that plays into it a lot, like how people think of you after the fact, even if you do end up being the final pick or you don't. Because like even now there are all these articles on like Kelsey being jealous of Joey, like dancing on Dancing with the Stars when she's nothing but proud. Like she lives with him. Like it's not like she was like offended by anything that him and Jenna did as like dance partners because it was dancing. That's all it was. And also she's married and Jenna's married and has a kid. Like people real don't realize how much people's personal lives are affected by everything that's going on around them on the show. And even after the fact of leaving the show, there's still all that social media attention on them. Like they get like all these interviews after the final rose. And then they get all these other things that they can go to like these shows for movies and brand deals and all these cool things and people don't realize really how much everything affects them. But as I was talking about before, back to some other stuff, some topics that really drew me in with these shows specifically were how love seems to be the overarching topic that they all want love, but like, do they really like want it, you know? Like that, and all these live in the same place. But also physical connection, they seem to it seems to be a priority for them, especially with the show that they see each other right off the bat. It's not like Love is Blind or like Married at First Sight where they're not able to see each other before they get married or something. Physical connection, that attraction happens instantaneously. And although it is a quick process, you do see some falling in love over time, and some of them stay together, like we see with Love Island USA season 6 contestants in the final three. They're still together. I'm pretty sure all of them are long distance. So it's very interesting to see that play out. But also beauty standards, like who do they see as beautiful? What girls at first did they cling to, or like did they were they attracted to? Like if you look at Love Island USA season 6, Serena and Cordell, who are the winners, from day one they ended up actually just being randomly in the same color, but Serena stepped on the heart of another guy on the first night, and it wasn't Cordell. And then she ended up with Cordell at the end. And then she was like with him throughout the entire season. So I found that really interesting, like just seeing things blossom from friendships to love. And even if it doesn't seem possible, it is in some cases. But also we do see jealousy and envy, with girls that like wish they had that type of relationship as other contestants, or they wish they had like a certain type of thing that another girl has. Like, why can't I be just like her? Like that type of thing. Why am I not good enough? Questioning if you're worthy of that type of love. Um, which brings in like what they desire, how they flirt, what they're tempted by, and if they're willing to be intimate on camera, obviously. Like everything, every second of their lives, they know is going to be on camera, so they have to go about it in a way they know they won't be ashamed of, or they hope they won't be ashamed of. But they're still like pursuing relationships, friendships, and even like a sexual connection possibly. So it's very interesting to see that play out. And overall, I really hope you enjoyed this, but um, I still think The Bachelor and Bachelorette are my favorite reality TV shows. I wonder what you guys are. Like, what is your favorite TV show? Reality dating TV show that is. Like, there's also Perfect Match, which is a recent show that takes contestants from all these different shows, like The Circle, which is just strategic game show. Like, you have to lie to people on it, which is very interesting how they go on that. But like, people from the Squid Games live action thing, like where it was like a social competition. There's one guy from that on second season or whatever, Perfect Match. People from Love is Blind were on Perfect Match. Like types of shows like that. People from like Selling Tampa, which is very interesting that they're on a dating show. But like shows like that, like they bring everybody together and like they're just put them in a stirring pot and just stir up for the tea or the gossip. And I feel like that's their goal at the end of the day. A lot of these shows, well, some of them are for love. I think the priority of reality TV show is to get viewers. What are your thoughts? You can leave the comments down below.